Grand Rising loves. This is the altar spread for the collective today, and I'm just gonna start talking because I've got a lot to do and I slept a little late this morning. So, anyhow, Grand Rising loves, Grand Rising loves. The sacred geometry that showed up for today is the seed of life. And so the seed of life is this beautiful six-petaled flower. And it is actually said that the six-petaled flower represents Genesis. It is the beginning of creation. And so meditating on this symbol actually helps you to facilitate ascension and change. But this is a subtle change of the inner self. So all of the other cards that have been showing up for change, it's more about the transformation of self in your work, in your personal life, in your relationships. And this is the transformation of the inner self, the seed of life. And so if you look at the synchronicity of the 33, that represents the harmonizing of the parts, mind, body, spirit. And so the seed of life very much is that type of alignment. And so just feel those subtle changes. Good morning, beautiful sister Jessica. How are you? And so the seed of life, if you meditate on that image, like I said, the six-petaled flower represents the Genesis. So this can also represent Grand Rising, beautiful. And I love all of your nature, how you share your world with us. I love that because I never realized how much I missed green, but watching your videos, I can literally marinate in it. Thank you. I appreciate you so much. And so feeling into that Genesis, this card also talks about those that are new to the awakening process and learning about themselves, the real self. So this is not the program self, the self that that's got amnesia. This is the self before the amnesia. And a lot of that because of the awakening process and the vibration, and now we are in this new dimensional existence. You're being called, and a lot of you have risen to the challenge to commune deeper with self and to really learn about self and honor self. And the seed of life helps you do that. So this is the imminent change, but it's the inner subtle change of self, not the outward transformation of your life, right? Like the overhaul that's been showing up in the card spreads. This is the inner overhaul. And so water showed up, and it showed up upright. Last time it showed up, it was in the reverse, remember? So this time showing up upright, it just says honor all your feels. And I love that water showed up on the full moon. So this is the first full moon of 2021. The moon is in Leo, y'all. That's this fiery full moon. And so this is a powerful full moon for release. What sandbags can you cut off of your hot air balloon to gain loftiness? Because if you do that for yourself and you're honest about it and you're really honest about what you can release, you will actually help the entire collective consciousness to also raise up. So it's like, what can you release for yourself? What are the expired experiences and outdated patterns that you can say, this is no longer serving me. I'm not taking this, cut it. What are the energetic ties that I have with certain people that just feel fucking heavy and dense? Cut it. What are the expired experiences or the etheric cords that are actually sucking the life force out of me? Cut it. Yes, thank you, Tony. Give thanks. So really, like, cut all that shit out. Release it. Because whatever you are really honest with yourself about, you can release, and it gives permission to the entire collective consciousness without even saying it. And what I vow to do today is to share all of my releases publicly, and I don't normally do that. So what I do is I have 3 lists that I burn in a ceremonial fire every full moon. One list is forgiveness. Who am I forgiving? And I always put the why. I always put the why. I forgive so-and-so for. So that way I am also reiterating for myself why I'm forgiving them, because forgiveness is about freedom. You not only free that person, but you free yourself. There is no longer an energetic tie around any kind of feels. And it really does make everything clean. And so that's the first list. Second list is, who do I need to sever energetic ties and etheric cords with? And if you really don't have an awareness about this, whoever is draining you, if you're sharing space with someone and you feel fucking tired when they leave, that's one. And I'm just gonna say straight off the bat, if you have children, with them, because it happens so subtly that we want to take their emotion for them because we want to save them the experiences that we had. Stop it. You are robbing them of deeper experiences. So cut cords with your kids. And I cut cords with my kids every full moon, and I do it. And even my closest friends, it's not even that they're draining me, but I feel myself when I get into a closer, intimate relationship with someone, I do want to take their shit for them. And especially if you're deeply empathic, it's like our natural state, right? We're not doing it to martyr ourselves. We're doing it because we so deeply love them that we don't want them to have the experiences. And so I cut cords with them as well so that I can free them and free myself. But this way they get to have the liberation of all of their experiences, because we choose our shit. So if you have a friend that's going through some deep shit, don't take their shit, hold them through it. That is how you can be of deeper service. Say, I am here. I'm going to support you through this, but I'm going to let you feel all the feels and witness you because I love you that deeply. Because really trying to take their shit is robbing them, and then they're going to end up with worse experiences because they weren't allowed to really feel all the feels of it. And then the third list is what I release. And so I usually choose one really big one for myself. In this release, I release, like, this is really expired. So like in this Mercury shadow, rage has been coming up for me. And I know that it's more deeply seated in my mother, right? So it's like regaining self-identity and my rights, right? So it's been coming up in little ways, like the whole mask thing. You know, I had a run-in and I let my human get the best of me, and I told someone to fuck off. And so I was so ashamed of myself. And there was a lot more around the situation, and maybe I should share it, fuck it. So I'm in this phone store, and phone stores are normally lit up like stadiums, right? But this was a dark, seedy ass little store. And my daughter was the actual customer, and she was standing on the fucking tape dot on the floor, and I was standing by the door because I was the only one in the place without a mask, and there were only 3 other people in the store. My daughter, who was wearing a mask because she's kind of a conformist, and I don't judge her for that. I mean, she's her own person. She's 17. And so I am not in my ego, and I don't judge her for that. If that's what makes her feel comfortable, fine. That's whatever. And then there's 2 gentlemen, both working in the store and both wearing masks. And so he said, ma'am, you're going to have to step outside. And I said, if you think I'm going to leave my daughter here, a minor female, with two masked men I do not know in a dark store, you're absolutely insane. I said, but I am 12 feet away from you, standing next to the door, and she is your customer. So anyway, we spent literally like 3 minutes of my very precious time explaining why I wasn't going to step out and why basically he didn't want to do his job. And so I, reiterated that my most valuable commodities are my energy and time, and he was wasting both and not doing his job when she's the customer. But anyhow, I ended up saying fuck off and walked out, angry that my time was wasted. And so my daughter said, see, that's why I wear a mask, so people don't talk to me like that. And I was like, oh, did I look like I gave a fuck? And I said, I'm more mad about him wasting my time. And then she said, but I'm so embarrassed. And I said, no, she said, I'm so embarrassed by you. And so I looked at her, and we're walking through the parking lot, and she's still wearing her mask. And I said, Rosalia, I could say the same thing about you in this very moment. And, but I love her, but I was being so overtly human and gross. So I'm going to be forgiving myself on the forgiveness list for I have to hold no shame around that, right? Because we have our moments. These are all learning lessons. So what is the big release? That's the whole point of sharing this ridiculous story, is what do I need to release for myself? Obviously, maybe shame. Like I release feeling shame for myself around anything, giving myself like ultimate permission, right? So I will hold no fucking shame. So if I fall out of my highest consciousness, because I really wasn't out of integrity, I actually honored my feels, but I was just like, I had to let off some of the rage. And so I could have expressed that rage in a more conscious way, right? But I should forgive myself for not, and don't hold any shame. So maybe I'll release shame, because shame obviously is still in there and I'm triggered to that, but also rage is in there, obviously. So I'm gonna have to mull over this a little bit in this morning's meditation and see what comes up, what I release. But anyhow, those are the 3 lists that I burn in the fire. And however many things I released, right? So I count how many people I had to forgive. I count how many people I had to sever etheric cords with, and then my release. And I add those together. That same number of things that were offered to the fire and burned, that's the same number of things that I write on a list of gratitude. So this is my gratitude list for the last full moon, and there were 11. And so I did a gratitude list of 11 things, and Moldavite will help, you're right. I actually hang that up somewhere where I can see every single day. And it's actually right here in the cabinet behind me at my altar. And I read off that list aloud every single morning after I pull all the altar cards, and I pull my own personal pull. So that way I remind myself I am filling these newly open spaces that I've released and cleared with gratitude, so that I am constantly filling those newly open spaces with love, with love, with love, with love. And I try to keep it very current. So we can always be grateful for breathing, right? We can always be grateful for life and our children, but really, really try to be mindful. Like, what are the little things that were huge, right? Like, for instance, I had one client who swore she never wanted to have children. Never, 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 never. So this is one of the things on my gratitude list from last month. Swore she never wanted to have kids. And I told her in a session about a month prior, you know what, I see a baby. I see a male child. And I said, sorry, I don't know if that's bad news for you, because she said she didn't want to have kids. And she literally contacted me later and said, oh my God, I'm pregnant. And you're literally like the second person I told. I told my husband, and then I had to tell you because you said it. But So I was grateful for that. Because I honored myself. There are sometimes things that spirit gives me that feel really uncomfortable because she had said so many times she wasn't ever going to have kids. So was she taking precautions not to have kids? I don't know, but spirit's like, there's a kid. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be wrong, right? So that's the human part of me, scared to be wrong, instead of just sharing what's being given to me, because I don't really think before I speak. But in those moments, I'm like, ooh, that feels uncomfortable. Is this really true? And I've been put in that position before. So a lot of times when those big things like that come up in the month, I always put those on my gratitude list, because thank you, Spirit, for giving me the fortitude and courage to actually speak my truth, even when there's a possibility I may look fucking insane to the person I'm saying it to. So, yes, right. Thank you, Tony. So, that for water, honor all the feels. So especially today on this full moon, honor all your feels and write it down. What do you want to let go of in this full moon? Because the full moon power is so amazing for release. That is our beautiful gift every full moon, that beautiful Mother Moon shows up and says, you know what? I'm going to help you with this shit. So just speak it all, but be honest with yourself and be honest about what you're ready to let go of. Don't be willy-nilly about it. Like, yeah, I really want to release this, right? Because I've done that before, and the universe will kick your ass. Like, yeah, I'm ready to let this guy go, and then like he calls me the next day, because this will happen to you. Don't think for a second I won't. When you cut ties with somebody, they're gonna call you the next day, because they can feel that shit. They can feel that life force being severed, and they will reach out to you like, oh damn. So even if they are aware of it or not, they will reach out to you. That's a very real thing. So be honest with yourself. Will you be able to turn that call down? Because look, you put it in the fire, you made that offering, you better come correct, because the universe will kick your ass in that. So Fanatinite showed up about power. So I love this card when it shows up, because power is so misunderstood, right? When you are on the spiritual path, you really start to understand the truth about power. Wait, I'm reading these comments. I constantly have. Yes. Letting my mind say. Yes, the inner critic. And so I've been teaching that lately. Thank you, Jessica. So the inner critic, like the mind, that's actually our masculine energy. And so if we are creating this inner dialogue that's a critic, that's toxic male energy. And so if you have toxic male energy happening inside of you, what do you think is going to be showing up in your reality? Like toxic fucking males. And so thank you for bringing that up, because nobody wants that shit. And so, yeah. So that's even a truth. Thank you, Tony, for also validating that for Jessica. Even for males, they're like, why all of a sudden are all these like men showing up like almost wanting to fight me and all of this? Well, yeah, because you got some toxic male critic energy going on inside of you. Tony. Thank you. Made me smile. Okay, so Fanatinite talks about the correct use of power. Okay, so your power cannot be taken. Your energy can, but your power can never. You are the only one that can diminish your own power. But you also have to wield that power properly. And so many people are afraid of their own power. They are not willing to walk in it and speak it and feel it. Yes. Yeah. And I myself also, Jessica, have been moving through the need to feed the divine masculine really clearly. And yeah, and letting myself be nurtured by the feminine side and the masculine side as well. Instead of critical, retraining him to be loving. So Vanadenite talks about not wielding the power over someone, but in support of. So it was kind of like what I said, you know, you don't want to create cords with someone that you love deeply to take their shit. You actually want to support them. That's the correct use of power. That's the correct use of that masculine energy, that directive energy, that nurturing energy, because the nurturer, the giver is our masculine. And if we are doing that with the expectation that we will be loved back, or that it makes us better because we're martyring ourselves, or any of that, that's the improper use of power. That's manipulation, and that's toxic male energy. So be aware of that. And that was a few days ago, I put that, the toxic giving. So if you go down my timeline, if you're interested in hearing more about that. But anyhow, Uluka Vahini talks about the goddess of karma. And so I believe it was yesterday that she showed up, actually. And this talks about, don't you worry about holding people, or the punishment of people, or holding them accountable is your job, right? So saying, you know what, that wasn't okay. That's speaking our rage through our divine self. Setting those boundaries, holding people accountable is our job. But the whole karmic ramifications of disrespect and betrayal is not your job. That's already being watched. And so what this card says is that you don't have to worry about it, because the goddess of karma sees everything, and justice will be dealt. So you don't have to worry about that, how it's going to look or when it happens. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Because there are sometimes, I know, like, people do awful things and we're like, what? How do they get away with this? They're not getting away with it. Just know that they're not. And a lot of times you want to watch it, right? That's your human that's like, I want to watch the crash and burn. I want to see them suffer the way they made me suffer. And we don't get that. Just know that what we do get is peace when we walk away. And really, that's the best gift. So remember, forgiveness frees you. That's the best bit about forgiveness, is that you become liberated. Yes. So that is the spread for today. Oh, thank you, Tony. Thank you. So remember, this is the interchange. Seed of life is the subtle interchange with the double 3, y'all. The 33. This is a harmonizing of your parts, mind, body, spirit, and honoring your emotions, because water showed up upright today. And so on the full moon, yes, always honor all the feels. Wield your power correctly. Don't be a toxic male. This is even for you females. Don't be a toxic male giver. And that is the spread. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. And I am sorry for any discord that I may have created in this reality. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Heartbeat, beat, I'm the champion. Run and they run and they run and they run. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.